Good afternoon everyone, I hope you're doing fantastic. In this video I'm going to show you the best way or the easiest way to send an invoice to a client to get paid. Now I've got asked this question quite a lot. It's a very important part, so I'm going to talk about the whole process behind it, what you actually do. So this is post placement, so once you've made a placement and judging by, hopefully you've got terms of business signed, whatever your contract stipulates in your terms of business is what you're going to send. So first question is, when do you send the invoice? Now, typically 99% of recruitment agencies will send the invoice when the person starts. So the date is the 19th of May. So if the person is starting, let's say on a Monday, on the 24th, I would typically send the invoice about the 25th and 26th, just to make sure the candidate is, they're happy, they started staying there, and they're going to last a long time. What you don't want to do is the candidate doesn't show up and you send the invoice. That shows you don't know what's really going on. So I typically send the invoice a few days later. I check in with the candidate. How's it going? How was your first day? What have you been doing? Everyone made you feel welcome, etc. Yeah. After that, you want to sort of send your invoice in. Now, the first things first is usually most payment terms will be stated on a contract. So if you are looking for a payment as soon as possible, you can reduce it, but your rates will have to be a bit higher is what I advise. So you've sent, the person started, let's say they've gone in, it's the 26th now, so I want to send an invoice. So I use Word, or I use my invoicing program, but I used to use Word, and I used to just have a template. So if you go in there and just type invoice, you can go on Google, you can just type in an invoice template and there will be one. There's only a few things that really matter. It's your sort of company name, the amount that's going to be paid, and you need to stipulate the candidate's name on there just so they can reference check it, and you need an invoice number, because if there's any eventualities when you need to chase up the contract, you need to say, look, invoice from this company number 226, so the accounts team can actually do it. So when you make a placement as well, you need to say to the client, who should I send the invoice to? Sometimes they say just send it to me and I'll forward it on, or they say can you email in accounts at, and I usually copy in the person I'm dealing with, like the HR manager, so they know it's a genuine invoice, because people send fake invoices in and then get paid from that. So I would always do that. So you can go ahead and look at some of these templates. By all means, look at them. Let's take this one for example, very basic. So invoice number, we're just going to put like 222. You put the date of the actual invoice when you're sending it, company name, which is your company name, your address, and then to the company. So you must state the company name correctly. Address, of course, as well, in line with what's on their company house. So it isn't, what office you sent it to, it's the registered company address of the company. Now, this is all sort of standard basic information, you're probably thinking, but not a lot of people know it if they've never sent an invoice. You can't just expect to get paid. You can't just send your bank account details. They need to be able to track it, because the person you're going to deal with. So what I usually do is just put, let's say Jane Smith, and I usually put like recruitment services, and I put the job title. Let's say she was an accountant, and that's pretty much it. Amount. If you are VAT registered, you're going to put the amount plus VAT. So the total amount to be paid for this would be £5,000 plus VAT, plus VAT. Yeah. And I usually put contact. Yeah, I'm glad it has it on there. I usually put, if you any questions, please call me on my mobile. Payment is due within 30 days of the invoice date. Yeah, so you want to put that, oh, I think it's taking it all out, but you need to put something like that in there, so they don't just say, oh, 30 days from when I've seen it. So they'll check the date and say, oh, it come in today, so I've got to pay it. Now, if they don't pay, what do you do is the question. You obviously have to chase the invoice up. This is a legally binding document, an agreement you've had a contract commercially. It needs to be paid. Otherwise, I've never had an instance where it hasn't been paid. I'll be honest. Some people tell me I'm very lucky through my own business, but I've worked at companies where they haven't been paid. So what do you do in that situation? You go to the company and you say, look, it will go to a debt collecting agency. And what they usually do is you sell your invoice. So you get this invoice. If you can prove that you've genuinely had a business relationship and they do genuinely owe you the money, because there's a lot of people just saying you owe me money when you don't. Yeah. If you send them your terms of business, they're going to buy the invoice from you. So they won't pay you £5,000. They might pay you 4,000 or 4,500. But they'll pay you and they'll take the invoice from that. yeah, and they'll chase the company. If they end up taking the company to court, it goes as a red flag against their company name. So when you look up their company on Companies House, they've got an injunction against them, which no company wants, for one. And you can look at that under filings, I think, on Companies House. So you do not want to be if you're running a company, you do want to pay your debts. Basically, you do not want that red flag on you, because lenders won't lend to you. Your insurance will go up as well. So companies really, really genuinely do pay. I know it's a lot. People think, oh, they're not going to pay me and stuff like that. If you've done it the whole correct process, you've got your terms signed, you should have absolutely no issue with actually getting your payment term. In fact, they'll love to pay you for it. And the one thing I want to mention as well is you do have a rebate period as a recruiter. So you typically have a rebate period, which I don't know, might look like, the first 1 to 4 weeks might be 50% back. So don't blow your money, yeah? You don't want to actually touch this money, and it might be the 10th to 12th month. You might need to give 20% back. Now, I offer a free replacement as well in my terms of business, or I add that in for particular clients. So you don't want to necessarily blow the money or spend the money or take the money out of the business. You want to keep it in until you get past the 3 month period, because if you have to give that 20% back and you've got no money, you're going to have to be giving £1,250 back, which if you don't have, you're going to be paying out of your pocket, because that is a legally binding agreement between you and the company. So make sure you know what you're doing and things go hunky-dory. And I hope this video has been helpful. By all means, you don't have to look too sophisticated. You don't need fancy software. You don't need an accountant to do this for you. This is something you can do. If you want to be fancy with it, by all means, make an email address. If you're billing really well, you want an accounts at email address, or an invoice at email address, which makes you look a bit more professional as well. I have that feature and it's built into my accountancy software, and it just generates the invoice manually. I always sanity check it myself, but by all means, look at that. I hope this video has been helpful. If you've got any questions, please let me know, and take care.